Shelter is one of the basic human needs required for survival. However, as our population continues to grow, so does demand for shelter, the construction of buildings, and their damaging effects on our planet. While the construction industry represents 13% of global GDP, it is responsible for 40% of global energy consumption and 33% of greenhouse gas emissions. Companies have come under intense scrutiny over the past decade as investors and consumers demand transparency and accountability. This has led to the rise of ESG, which stands for Environmental, Social, and Corporate Governance. It's a rating system that measures the sustainability and ethical impact of a company. So, will the ESG rating system reduce our impact on the environment? Will it help us build better? Or is it just another greenwashing tactic that will curb progress and bankrupt the construction industry? It's tough to think about a buzzword trendier than ESG right now. More and more companies are being asked by investors to disclose their ESG data and ratings. Since it's a fairly new concept with a lot of gray area and ambiguity, it has become a divisive topic. Elon Musk, who does not mince his words, has called ESG a scam that has been weaponized by phony social justice warriors. I don't know if I would take it that far, but I am concerned about its effect on the future of construction because whether we like it or not, it is coming for every industry. In fact, global ESG assets are projected to reach $50 trillion by 2025. So let's look at what ESG means for us. An ESG score is a measure of how well a company addresses environmental, social, and governance risks in its operations. E stands for environmental issues, which includes sustainable materials, energy efficiency, and carbon footprint reduction. Buildings can use eco-friendly, renewable, and sustainable materials like hemp, bamboo, and recycled steel. To reduce the carbon footprint of buildings, we can use renewable energy like solar power. We can also repurpose old buildings instead of building new ones, build passive houses, and use low-carbon materials like mass timber instead of concrete and steel. S stands for social issues, which includes health and safety, community engagement, and labor rights. The construction sector accounts for 20% of all worker fatalities in the US. We can reduce this number through safety protocols, training, and PPE. Companies should also protect labor rights, especially those of migrant workers, who make up 25% of the construction workforce. They must be compensated fairly and provided housing, healthcare, and other benefits. G stands for governance issues, which includes diversity, executive compensation, and transparency. It's no secret that the construction industry is male-dominated. A diverse board can offer different perspectives to the decision-making process, which can lead to better outcomes and innovation. Ethics and transparency can also help reduce costs and inefficiencies and improve accountability. So now we have a fairly good understanding of how ESG principles can be adopted by the construction industry. We may not agree with every single principle, but most of us agree with the concept of corporate responsibility. Pursuing profits is very important, but not at the cost of destroying our planet for future generations. During my building science research journey, I've come across genuinely good companies and products like hemp wool and hemp wood that can help us build better. But they are small businesses dwarfed by big corporations who can offer inferior products at lower costs. ESG ratings could help small businesses grow and encourage investors to support them. At the same time, there are 5 reasons why I'm concerned about making ESG scores mandatory. The first is reduced productivity. While retail and manufacturing sectors have reinvented themselves, construction seems stuck in the past. Productivity in construction has averaged only 1% a year over the past 2 decades, compared to 3.6% in manufacturing. Growing labor shortages, supply chain instability, and inflation have encouraged construction companies to turn to off-site building and automation to improve productivity. I'm concerned about ESG regulations stifling these efforts because funds might need to be diverted from automation to secondary processes to boost their ESG score. The second is the cost to consumers. The construction industry seems to operate on razor-thin margins, which leave little to no room for investment in R&D, unlike the pharmaceutical industry. architecture and construction work on a per-project basis to avoid overhead. As this Ernst & Young article points out, there are significant costs involved in realizing new sustainability ambitions. In the short term, the costs will outweigh the financial benefits. To stay afloat, I could see companies further sacrificing quality, or even worse, passing along the cost of ESG to us, the consumers. The third is greenwashing. We touched on this topic in my video on carbon credits. I have visited certain factories that claim to build 100% recyclable net zero homes that will end homelessness and the housing shortage. Most of the time, those claims have no basis, and I always try to cut through their BS in my podcasts and videos. However, other journalists regurgitate lies and help deceptive companies gain more traction. In 2021, The Economist discovered that the world's 20 biggest ESG funds held investments in fossil fuel producers, oil producers, coal mining, gambling, alcohol, and tobacco. Next is subjectivity. ESG ratings are controlled by 4 market leaders: MSCI, Sustainalytics, RepRisk, and ISS. Each of these 4 agencies uses their own proprietary methodologies, metrics, weighting, and even definitions of ESG. There is no single unified standard behind ESG ratings. All these inconsistencies can leave investors confused about whether or not their money is actually backing an ethical and sustainable company that can deliver a decent ROI. Early last year, a Bloomberg study showed about 70% of investors thought ESG investments were very profitable. But in 2022, US-issued ESG bonds declined for the first time ever. It's important to note the context, though. 2022 was a financially difficult year. Inflation rates hit 40-year highs, the bond market tanked, and the stock market had its worst year since the 2008 financial crisis. Asset managers stepped back, adjusted their strategies, and poured millions into assets that aren't related to the stock market. Even if the stock market flatlines this year, these low correlation assets can continue to climb, one of them being art. In fact, contemporary art prices have more than doubled the S&P 500's total return over the last 26 years. This market used to be hard to get into, but the Masterworks platform lets you invest in multi-million-dollar paintings without actually spending millions. Masterworks has an impressive track record, with each of their exits so far being profitable. With over 700,000 members and a waitlist, it's tough to get into, but you can skip this waitlist using the link in the description for VIP access to their latest offerings. My last concern is E being held back by S&G. This one is a tricky subject. I understand the importance of social and governance issues, but their criteria seem very broad, particularly when it comes to DE&I, or diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. I know what it's like to fight for a seat at the table, and I would love to see more women in construction, but I personally lean towards merit-based systems like MFE, or Merit, Fairness, and Equality. I made a video a while back on why homeless shelters are so expensive. The average cost of shelters in California is $700 per square foot, as much as luxury homes. Would these companies score high ESG ratings despite their inferior quality products and outrageous costs? As this Reuters article points out, ESG is more about generating profits and less about saving the planet. ESG could turn into an unnecessary expense and a distraction from real progress. I see value in the idea of an ESG rating system, but the execution concerns me, just like the carbon credit system. Fortunately, the SEC has launched a climate and ESG task force to identify any misconduct on climate and ESG related disclosure and investment. The construction industry has a lot of room for growth, but is ESG the answer? Let me know what you think about this system in the comments below. I'm now offering early access to ad-free videos on Patreon as a thank you to everyone supporting me. I'll link my Patreon page in the description. Also check out my videos on carbon credits and tree planting scams. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, and the notification bell too. Thanks for watching. See ya.